Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to Stratosphere Studio. I'm Bill Whittle. It is the 12th of January 2026. Holy cannoli. Time has been moving on, man. I hope everybody's doing well. Let's see, what have I got here? I was, as usual, working right up against the show deadline, trying to get something finished to show you guys. I think it looks pretty cool. It has been really genuinely amazing how fast and powerful these tools are getting. So I wanted to give you kind of an update on where we were with that, and then we'll go ahead and get to our questions and stuff. So I think I mentioned last time that I'm doing as a demo a little standalone movie called Cast 27, which is like a significant part of, I would say it'd probably be at least a full third of an episode, maybe half of an episode. So I got a lot going on with that. Let me make sure I get everybody going here. And one of the things that I really want to do is not have to do it again. So as I think I mentioned last time, what that really means is I got to get the basics. What's with the voice? Voice is always like this, just stress and things like that, just more often than not. Where to go here? This other thing, page set up and turn off that that danged monetization. Here it comes, standby. Okay, monetization off. Got it. Yeah, I lose my voice yelling at LA traffic and shaking my fist at clouds. That's a big part of my day. That looks good. Let's go back. And there's our comment section. Monetization off. And make sure I don't make this mistake again. So I do have some stuff to show, and like I said when I was talking about getting back to basics, instead of just rendering the cool stuff, you have to get the faces really to maximum quality, and then you got to do something I haven't really had to do before, which is wardrobe. Now, in the CG world, putting a character in a new outfit is a hell of a lot of work. You've got to rig the suit, and you've got to weight everything. And even when you do, some things like armor can't move, other things can, but the motion is never quite right. And I was just like, that alone is a full-time job. Just doing the costumes, full-time job for traditional CGI. But as it turns out, AI, well, is a little bit different and significantly easier. So I will show you some of the results of that in just a second. Before I do, got a little piece of news. Where did I put it here? A little bit of personal news. Okay, where are you? Hang on. Just a personal thing. Hang on. So, as it turns out, we have a new addition to the Whittle family that that Natasha brought home, and thank you so much, everybody, for so kind. Casey and everybody else. Where did I just drop this thing? Oh, there it is. Yeah, so I got something for you here. Hang on a second. This is See if it'll bring it in scaled. If it doesn't, then that's... Hang on. I'll like to see if it'll come in. I may need to... Will it take this? It will. Hang on, YouTube. I will get there in just a moment. That gray hair belongs to somebody I know. So yes, this is Bunky. And the reason I like this picture so much, hang on YouTube, I'll be right with you. That's Bunky, and the reason I like this picture so much, sorry again, YouTube, here it comes. Hold your horses. I was, you know, there was a period when I was, whoops, come on. Man, this software is just not user-friendly. There was a, period a couple years ago when I was talking about RK theory, these two different theories of how people, different species behave, and one of them is like rabbits, that's R, and then K-type species is like wolves and stuff. So Natasha brought this little Bunky home. He is a wascally wabbit, and I'm sitting there with him, and I realized this picture that you're looking at here is the actual physical manifestation of RK theory. And the reason I got into this idea was because the reason it occurred to me was because I was sitting there on the couch with this new little fuzzy little bunny rabbit, and I realized rabbits are not the bottom of the food chain, but they're pretty close. Mice probably a little lower in terms of things that creatures go out and eat, but rabbits are pretty far down there as prey animals go. And we had some concern about how our cats would react, but the cats reacted really, really well. And I'm just sitting there on the couch, just right about the time this picture was taken. This adorable little bunny, and I just remember thinking, this individual bunny, not all of them, just this one individual little bunny rabbit, has just made friends with the planet's apex predator, which struck me as remarkable. Really, that's really an amazing thing about humans. It just struck me as, hey, so now this one little rabbit has got like a human with weapons to protect it, and it's a member of the family now. So that's good as it goes. Natasha had a friend who breeds them, and the friend did the classic. This is what got me my first cat, Reno, and why I've had cats ever since. I just take it home for the weekend. If you like them, and if you don't, then that's fine. Anyway, that's it. What are all those sultanas doing on the kitchen counter? I don't know if that's for me or not. Oh, I guess I didn't get it. I will love him and hold him and all of that. But yeah, she's just a cute little girl, and she's just running around all over the place. Most of the time, last couple of days, she likes to sit on that cushion directly above my head, and I can't turn around that much because I had a disc fusion in my neck, and so I have to ask Natasha, am I wearing my rabbit hat? And she says yes. So this is Natasha brought her home and just loved him so much, and will I litter train her? Bunky or Natasha? Natasha's pretty well toilet trained by this point, and Bunky likes to go in a little box. One thing I will say about rabbit poop is, if you're going to have an animal, poop it on your floor, rabbits are the ones to go with, because their little rabbit poops are just like, they're like little tiny little, brown BBs. Don't, you visit a friend's house and they've got a rabbit and you see little pieces of chocolate around, just don't eat them. That's the way they go. So anyway, that's that. We got Rabbit Chow, and she's gotten, I don't have the movie up. I'll see if I can bring it next time. So we had a little isolated area where we could put her in, keep her secure at night until everybody got it used to everybody else, and Natasha came back with a prepackaged salad from Ralph's, and so we opened it up, and we're putting all this deluxe salad stuff in there for the rabbit, and then Katya and Spike are both sitting there looking at this rabbit like, wow, man, what the hell is this thing? And then immediately, both of the cats started eating the salad, and I thought, man, this peer pressure thing is a pretty big deal, man, pretty big deal. So anyway, that's Little Bunky, and we're real glad to have her. It makes Natasha very happy. It makes me happy. So there she is. Okay, we'll take care of that, and we'll take care of that. So I got something to show you, and I don't know why I ended up doing what I did with this, but I was just in a mischievous mood. Natasha's wrist. Let me just deal with that. Natasha's wrist doesn't hurt at all anymore, and hasn't hurt for a while. She's still doing physical therapy to get her range of motion back, but it's so much better, and she's doing terrific. So thank you for asking. So anyway, I knew I needed to do a wardrobe test because I've never done one before. I have read Watership Down, and I liked it a lot. And the animated movie is really pretty cool. Hang on a second. Yeah, this is talking about a wolf pup that came back. People have raised lions, and the lions are just so happy to see them, and all of these. It's just really heartwarming. So anyway, instead of rushing in and starting to render scenes from this Cast 27 thing, I realized I had to really get down to basics, find out how the clothing works, how high, how well the resolution and so on, and I told you that if you got a new traditional CGI costume, you would just have to basically put your character's head onto the exterior of the suit, and you had to rig everything so that the deformations look right, and it's never quite perfect, but it's like good enough and stuff. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, with the tools I have now, it's like this. I did a high resolution rendering of Jake. I got his head just right. I got his face just right. So I've got like a high resolution 4K full body shot of Jake just wearing t-shirt and jeans, right? So I just got a still picture of Jake standing there, which I spent some work on, got it the way I like it. Now, in order to change the costume on an AI character, here's the work you have to do. You have to go find an image of the costume that you want, and then you drag that into Nano Banana Pro, and you say, put this costume on this character, and that's the end of that. So, I'm going to show you guys a kind of a first pass on what what Jake will be wearing. So not just, I just had to start with somebody, not just out on the frontier, but indoors and so on and so forth. Now I got to try and didn't preload this, so I have to try and sync this up so that I can kind of do a narration. That's just going to be tough, so I'm just going to have to narrate it, and there may be a little bit of lag. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this into both windows. Oh, for the love of God. Sorry about that. I drag it into both windows, and I'll do a live narration. And the reason that this thing goes off the rails, and as you will see, it will go off the rails. is because I just had seen some of the latest of the Starfleet Academy stuff. You know what I'm going to do? Let me think about this. No, I'm just going to. YouTube is going to be a little bit out of sync, I'm sorry to say. But so what I did was I just did a bunch of different costumes and just kind of ran with it. So again, I wish I was only doing one stream and make life so much easier. But all right, so I'll try and get this done as closely as synced as possible. And ready? Here we go. So this first costume of Jake looks pretty cool, but I actually thought the orange and white was a little bit flashy for him. This is just a test of this is like a, emergency kind of out in the wilds kind of look. This one I like a lot for when it gets really cold. The gray one. The gray one I think looks fantastic. I'm real happy with that. This is kind of Jake's sort of at-home look. I didn't want him like in a sci-fi outfit. I just wanted him something warm and comfortable, and Lisa's probably bought this for him. This is just when it gets a little bit chillier inside the hab, so I put a hoodie on him and did that. And then this is him with an outer jacket, zipped up and ready to go. And look at the motion and everything. And then this is him when he actually goes and explores the frozen hab. Now the rest of this is kind of self-explanatory, so I'll just be quiet.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm chafing pretty badly here. Standard sci-fi underwear. Pretty basic stuff, really. Life on the frontier is about a manly, rugged life outdoors. Just because it gets cold doesn't mean you can't look fabulous. This is what real men wear when they are forced to discipline their kids. Not gonna lie, a lot of this is starting to feel a little gay. Nothing gets more gay than this. Well, I guess I was wrong. So very, very wrong. I have never been so wrong about anything in my life. Only you can save us from more of this.
The reason I was able to go to that trouble was because it was actually, honestly, just that easy. For the Starfleet Academy stuff, I literally pulled up the trailer and I just did a little screen grab of most of the uniform, dropped it on him, and it looks absolutely fantastic. All of the motion, all of this stuff. So yeah, Gene Kuhn smiles and nods approvingly. Who was the costume designer? Bill Tice, William Tice, I think it was, and he did some great work. It does look good, doesn't it? It looks really, really good, and all of that motion and it's just freaking perfect. So yeah, I really have to have James T. Kirk of Starship Enterprise go walking through this new show. Eric Blake mentions the Tice titillation theory, which, if I recall correctly, Bill Tice designed costumes on women that looked like there were no visible means of attachment. You know, he wouldn't have like straps or anything. He just have like really weird wraps and things like that, and he just had a profound effect on my 14-year-old self. I can tell you that. No, see, Roadrunner says, and I know he's kind of teasing me. Bill's having so much fun experimenting with AI, we may never see an actual episode. But the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to go back and do it again, and I want to know what the limitations are. So, I had to dress him for this, and I wanted him to not. I didn't want him to look sci-fi, you know. I didn't want him quite as worn as the rest of the columnists that I had in that first thing I did, but I wanted it. I wanted him to just look like a guy, and so before I started building scenes and stuff, I wanted to make sure the costumes would hold up, and I had to build that little rebreather prop because they're going in the inside this hab, and he's training his family. There's a line in that you'll see in Cast 27 where they're inside the rover and Will's wearing a parka, and Will says, "Hey, Dad, can we warm it up a little bit?" And he says, "Nope." And Jake says, "We live in a cold place, son, and we're going to be here for a while, and it takes a while to adapt to that, and the earlier that we start, the sooner that we'll get there." And I don't know if I'll put it in the Cast 27 thing. I don't want to be too much on the nose, but Jake also has he keeps the cabin pressure in the habitat and the rovers below 1 atmosphere, because the planet that they live on has a thinner atmosphere with a lower oxygen content, and when people do the summit attempts on Everest, they have to go up and acclimate. And what actually happens to their bodies is once they get up to a level where the air gets thin, once you stay there, your body starts manufacturing more red blood cells because there's not as much oxygen available in the air. So your body just makes more platelets to carry more oxygen to make up for the fact that the atmospheric pressure is low, and so you can acclimate to that. And what Jake does is he's trying to acclimate his family so that not so that they're uncomfortable all the time, but just so much that if they ever get in a situation where they lose, it's not a vacuum planet. In fact, on Earth, they're going to discuss the fact that they don't want to go to a vacuum planet. But he basically says, look, we gotta get physiologically used to the cold, because we're going to be cold. And I'm not saying we have to be freezing all the time. I'm just saying if we're being cold continuously, then we will be less susceptible to the cold. And the same thing goes for the low atmospheric pressure. Now, the low atmospheric pressure has, as I said, an actual biological explanation. Your body makes more red blood cells. But the acclimation is something that I don't think I've ever really had to deal with. I do know that it seems like the Vikings, now I know you're watching TV shows and stuff, but the Vikings seem to be running around pretty much in t-shirts and went swimming in frozen cold lakes. There's no question that people who live in cold climates deal with the cold better than people that don't. And so he's doing that. Somebody mentioned Jake and Lisa. I don't know if I ever showed these. I don't think I did. Let me just show you 2 stills that I like an awful lot real quick, and then we can get back to it. Oh, a fame name says is talking about seasons on Earth. Yes, our seasons are caused exclusively by the axial tilt of the planet. In the northern hemisphere, during the heart of winter, Earth is actually closer to the sun than it is in northern hemisphere summer. So it's got very little to do with your distance from the sun. But this planet that they live on, and I really like this planet a lot, has very little axial tilt, and if it was in a stable orbit, it would have no seasons at all. But it's in an extremely eccentric orbit, so it has, 3, 4, 5 months of really nice temperatures, and during the middle of that, the middle couple of weeks, it actually gets too hot to go outside, and then the planet just starts heading out for this long, 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 long winter. And then they have a holiday called Aphelion Day, which is the day when the planet's farthest from the sun, which means that it's going to start warming up from then. And the way orbits work is when you're out far, it slows down, and when you come in, it speeds up. And so they have probably a 2.5, 3 year. And in that time, they've probably got 7 or 8 months where it's actually, pretty decent outside. And then, 3 weeks or a month where everything floods and all the ice melts, and they're just torrential floods, and the temperature outside is 130, 140, 150 degrees, where they can't go outside because it's too hot for that closest approach kind of thing. So I just find that really interesting. And one of the things that's a neat story beat is that this Turner family arrives on this planet just as it's heading out of the tolerable parts. They are arriving just as it's starting to get cold, and that means there's a lot of outflow. That's why I mentioned, I think, a show ago or two or something like that, when they arrive at the outpost, which is close to the closest settlement to where they're going to live. I came up with an exotic name for it. I call it Johnson's Point, or Point Johnson. But when they arrive at Point Johnson, they're in this pretty big tilt rotor transport, something that carries 50, 60 people. And they're arriving, and there's our family of 4, and then 2 or 3 other people. And they're regulars who are coming back. And when they get into the concourse, there's 60 people waiting to get out of there. And that's kind of, because it's going to get bad again, and not everybody can take it. But the Turners will take it. They're going to stay there, and they're going to thrive and prosper. So, Airtiki wants to know about Macho Grande. I've never been over Macho Grande. I'm sure many of you out there have been over Macho Grande, but I've never been over Macho Grande. I'll never be over Macho Grande. So anyway, all that stuff just works out well, and it adds all kinds of cool story beats and things like that. So let me see here. What am I doing? I remember just 2 pictures that I liked a lot. Hang on. And then we'll get to the questiones. I just have to find these. It'll just take a second. Where'd I put them? Oh. Just happened to find this. Wasn't looking for it, but this just came up in one of the renderings I was doing. So here's Lisa 10, 15 years later. Oh man, that's big. Hang on. Boy, I had no idea that. I must have done a 4K image on that. Hang on, YouTube. I'm sorry about this. Hang on. Looking for the images that I'm looking for, and I'll find those and just... Oh, come on. This bloody... One of them is just so easy, and the other one... And it's the same company. Come on, Billy. You can do it. You can do it, Bill. I got confidence in you. You got this, Bill. Okay, where's the picture I was looking for? I know where I can find it. Hang on a second. Come on, Bill. Come on. Where the devil did I put this? Hang on. Here it is. Hang on. Just take a second. I have to go scrolling through the literally thousands of images that I've rendered here, but there's two images that I just really loved, and I don't want to waste time looking for them, so I know where I generated them. Hang on a second. Man, that's a lot of images. Close, close. Here we go. I see one of them. Where's the other one? Well, you know what? I'm not going to wait all day finding these things. Oh, it's got to be older than this, right? It's older. Hang on, almost there. Come on, baby. I got one. Come on, Jack. Now, here we go. Okay, so this image I love, and I'll show you the other one I love a lot too. Come on. Oh, for the love of God. Okay, so this one I like an awful lot. And I'll put this in for your viewing pleasure. Man, I don't know how. I can't believe I must have rendered these things at 4K. I can't believe it. Hang on, guys. That's good enough. So I like that shot a lot. Hang on, YouTube. I'm coming. And I especially like the clothes they're wearing. I really, really, really like this combination of like the high tech and having people who look like actual humans living there. You know, that's the thing about the sci-fi always. It's like we're in a sci-fi house with our sci-fi clothes and we have sci-fi this, and you know, it's like there's nobody ever looks like they're at home. Nobody ever looks comfortable. And this one actually kind of blew my mind because when I rendered this next one, I had simply forgotten to put the background image. I had the faces of Jake and Lisa, and I told it to render, and I forgot to put in the rover background. So this is what I got out of that, and I love this picture just because they both look so real. All right, here we go. Ready? And then we'll go to questions. Okay, YouTube's got it. Here comes to the street. I mean, whatever this place. Isn't that great? Not real people, but they you wouldn't know it to look at them. I just love those images. Love them. And one thing that's going to be fun when I get the actual voice actors locked down for these two roles, I will be able to put them. I can do like a photoreal AI version of me, and then I can interview them. Like this is the actor who plays Jake. This is the actress who plays Lisa. What do you think about this? And you know, we can show stuff like behind the scenes, which is really cool. I saw somebody do that recently. I thought it was very, very, very clever with Avatar, where turn it off. where the AI guy basically acted like he was set it up so that he was on the set of Avatar, and you had you had the actual guys, and you had like sets and lights and everything. It was really clever. It wasn't the CG stuff. It was like real people. So there you go. Anyway, I'm just real happy with this progress. Real happy. I'll run the video again at the end of the show, just because I like it. All right, let's get to our questions. See what we got here today. So anyway, now I know that the costumes will work, that the clothes will deform correctly. I don't have to worry about. I don't want to go backwards. That's why I'm getting the basics. I don't want to go back and have to re-render this. I'd like that. I'd very much like, and I'm counting on CASA 27 being essentially unchanged, just dropping it into episode 3 of the first season. I think episode 3 or 4 at the latest. Okay, so and it's gonna stand alone. So just one more thing about before we go on about CAS 27. So CAS 27 consists of 4 different beats. There's the first beat where they're traveling on the planet. Will and Jake are in the rover, and then they pass another rover and they meet somebody. It's just an encounter with somebody who's going to become important over time. Then the second beat is they discover the abandoned habitat and what's inside the abandoned habitat, and then they find the rover. That's what I'm going to render first because that's the most dramatic one. Then the third beat is back at home base, where the family is talking about what they're going to do with this robot and can they keep it and salvage rights and all that other stuff. And Jake and Lisa have a scene about what the right thing to do is. And then there's a fourth scene which takes place at the Point Johnson administrative building, and that is actually really cleverly written in terms of the outcome, if I do say so myself. It's a great example of the difference between being on Earth and being in the colonies. And when the whole thing comes together, you should have a real good idea about this particular storyline. And then I need to move on to, prepping the other 4. But this is the next big step, is to do something that I can release. Oh, and last thing on this topic, well, undoubtedly not, but it occurred to me late that that I could get a colonies channel going, and that I could start putting out material and promoting it, a little bit, and start building up like a fan base before it comes time to do the equity fundraiser for the pilot episode. So there's an Arrival episode. I've got the whole Arrival, so I got all this stuff. But this was something that, to me, captured the most important things that I wanted to get, which is the relationship between the father and the son, relationship between the father and daughter, relationship between the husband and the wife, and give them an idea. Ertiki says, are there predators or scavengers on Niflheim? This is one area that I have to sketch in. I think there has to be. And I think that given the time that they arrive, every animal that lives on this planet has to hibernate. It's just not up for discussion. In fact, it's the kind of thing where they hibernate for 3/4 of their lives, and spend most of their time in hibernation. And then when things start to warm up, things happen very, very fast. Here in California, it rains. No, we've had a really wet winter, thank God. We've had more rain this year. I think we had more rain in November than we've had in 2 or 3 years combined, so that was good. But one of the things that you notice about California is when it rains, everything grows like crazy, and the hills are green. It's like there's about a 2-week period where it's like Ireland, and all of these tumbleweeds and bushes and all of these just grow like, well, they grow like weeds because they're weeds, and then they dry out, and that's how it works. So these this let me just say this about the planet's flora and fauna. They are very, very limited in variety, very limited compared to Earth, and most of the time there's nothing to see because the predators have no prey and the prey have no vegetation. So there you go. But once it starts, it's really quite astonishing, and that's going to be fun when the planet comes around for the first summer, because it starts warming up, and then it's really nice, and there's a period both on the way in and on the way out, maybe a month or so, where it's actually just absolutely cozy outside. Atmospheric pressure comes up, it's warm, and then it's hot, then it's real hot, and then it's like too hot. And I had the idea, which I still like a lot, that that a large percentage of the population migrates during the hottest time of the year. They migrate to the poles because the middle latitudes just become unbearable, and there's an enormous amount of flooding. This planet's got a lot of water. It's locked up in permafrost, and when it floods, man, it becomes a water world for 2-3 months, equatorial sections. And it'll be fun to design the aliens. I'm looking forward to working with you guys on this. It's so great to have a smart audience. I've been playing with ideas about some kind of natural antifreeze type things that help them with that. I don't. Somebody mentioned ice lizards. I haven't decided whether they're warm-blooded or cold-blooded. Dave Bigbutte says it's like the first season of Lost in Space. That's exactly what it is. And let me just elaborate on this before I get to the question. That first season of Lost in Space was actually really good science fiction. At least the first several episodes were. And that one episode where they have to get in the chariot and move is great. Fame names says, so why a water miner? I think one of these years is probably about 3 years. Seems about right. Most of the time, it's cold, and half the time it's very cold. But you're out there for 2-year winter. It's nice to have your own water supply. So anyway, thank you. About Lost in Space. So I wrote this Cast 27 script, and I submitted it to ChatGPT for cold-blooded analysis and stuff. I have seen the pilot episode of Lost in Space, Eric, and it doesn't have the robot or Dr. Smith in it. And Dr. Smith in the first season, at least the first half of the first season, is just an evil bastard. And then Jonathan Harris, which I still haven't forgiven him for, Jonathan Harris realized that, if he just stays a simple one-dimensional villain, he's going to get killed off. And he decided that he's going to ham it up. And apparently, Irwin Allen loved it. So they kept it, and then the show just went straight to hell. And I never ever understood it until a couple years ago when somebody said that they were trying to compete with Batman because Batman was very campy. Anyway, that first season was great, and so when I sent this Cast 27 script to ChatGPT, a lot to say about it, and I said, look, I'm concerned that Will comes off like a Mary Sue. And ChatGPT said he's not a Mary Sue, and I wrote him not to be a Mary Sue, but I compared him to Will Robinson in the original Lost in Space. And you'll see it when you see the script or when you see the short. But basically, the reason that Will is not a Mary Sue, he's a smart kid, but he doesn't know everything in advance. He has to learn. He's a sharp kid. He's a quick learner. but he's not. I think that's the difference. Wesley Crusher, for example, never went to. He's sitting there steering the flagship of the Federation, and he's not even gone to Starfleet Academy yet. It was just insane. It was just ridiculous. And then you find out, oh, he's like an interstellar Mozart, and and he's a super genius, but he never had to learn anything. So in this Cast 27 script, they're driving along on the rover. The rover's on autopilot. I mean, if you've got, it's like a, I don't even want to call it a road. It's a route. It's a mud trench, So this is where the traffic goes, and the first scene, which I'll probably render second, has a scene where Will's looking down at the display and he can see there's an incoming rover, and at 20 miles out, and he sees it on the transponder, and they end up talking to the guy, but Jake says, "Okay, you want to handle this? You mean drive?" I say, "Yeah, you want to drive?" And Will says, "Yeah, okay, I think so." So what's the procedure with this oncoming vehicle? And Will says, "Determine right away." And Jake says, "Okay, so who's got the right of way?" And they've got the information on the incoming rover on their transponder and their display. And Will says, "He does." "Why?" "Because he's bigger." And Jake says, "Because he's heavier." And then Will says, "Okay, heavier, not bigger. He's heavier." Okay, so he's got the right of way. So what does that mean? And then Will says, "At 3 miles, we start to slow down to 40 miles an hour. Right? At 2 miles, we blink our lights 3 times, and then at 1 mile, we have to be off the road." And Jake says, "Not off the road. We have to be clear of traffic." And he says, "Yes, clear of traffic." And so Jake is just constantly educating him, and that's the difference between him and a Mary Sue. He doesn't have this information innately. He's learning it, and Geek says, the kid has to fail from time to time. He certainly does, but he's not automatically right. This is what makes Will interesting. For example, Jake says, "Who has the right of way?" He does. "Why?" "Because he's bigger." And then Jake says, "No, it's because he's heavier." And instead of Will going, "What's the difference?" Will is like, "Number one, I should have known that. He told me that before, and I was just not thinking clearly." The very first line in the first part of the thing, Dad's sleeping. Will's just looking at the sensors, and he says, "Dad," and Jake's been up a while. Jake's just sleeping in the driver's seat, and he nudges him and he says, "Dad," and Jake doesn't open his eyes. He says, "What is it, son?" And he says, "Dad, somebody's coming." And Jake says, "Why don't you give me some useful information?" And then Will clicks into the stuff he'd learned before. He says, opposing traffic. It's a type D400. It's at 12 miles, 108 mile an hour closure." And Jake goes, "Good. That D400 is a Dakota 400. That's a big rover." And so you're just constantly seeing this education. But then Jake makes a couple mistakes that gets Will into some trouble, physiological trouble, and Jake feels like an idiot. So I think it's got a real good ring to it, and it sets up some wonderful stuff 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. It's just last. We say the last thing I'll say. When they discover this habitat, and this habitat has been abandoned been abandoned for 67 years, which is a number of freezing, thawing cycles. And they're on this, it's just a track in the endless waste. It's just nothing but snow and ice. It's just flat and dirt, and so I had to put a lot of thought into, and this is, I think, the difference between good writing, especially good science fiction writing and bad science fiction writing, if Will and Jake are going to discover this habitat, the first question you have to ask is, why didn't anybody else discover it if it's been there for 67 years? And there's two reasons for this. First of all, they stopped to talk to this guy who's coming in the opposite direction, and that's a random point on a line. And the second thing is, there's actually three things. The second thing is, once they've stopped with this guy, Will says, "Hey, Dad, could we go this way instead?" It cuts the corner off to where we are. Jake's put the family in kind of an unusual place. So he's specifically taking them off the route. And so Dad says, "Well, why do you want to do that?" And Will says, "Because we've never gone that way before." And Jake says, "That's as good a reason as I've ever heard." So they start heading off of the road, way off of the road, 20 miles off the road. And then finally, Jake is driving through this valley, and Will's just looking at the sensors, and he just sees like this return. It's like ding, a little brighter, and then he says, "Dad," and then it's gone. And they have to back the rover up, and they find it on the X-band radar, and then they try thermal, and it's stone cold, and then they try LiDAR, and it puts a real hard reflection back on LiDAR. But there's that entire trip home, there's only a 15-second window where that return is there on the radar because it's inside of a canyon kind of thing. And so that's why they're the first people to discover it. They made a random stop on this 7-hour drive. They decided to go off the rails to get to their house, their habitat or whatever, which is in an unusual place. And even then, it's in a box canyon, and if Will wasn't playing with the sensors at maximum range and looking down at that instant, he wouldn't have seen it. And if his dad didn't believe him, he wouldn't have seen it either. But Will says he saw something, so Dad backs the rover up, and there you go. So that's a little more work than, hey, look, what's that? We've never seen that before. Well, you just arrived on the planet. There's been people here for 100 years. How come no one else has discovered this thing? You've got to do the work, the mental work to complicate that. Why did nobody see this before? Well, because, I want them to discover it. So what makes it unique about them that they discover it when no one else has? And then you have to make that believable. Just they're off the route at a random place that no one else would have gotten off on before. They have a desire to go try something new, and the geometry of those valleys are such that a straight line to that habitat at 8 miles away only leaves a 6 or 7 second window, and they find it. So there you go. Okay, so that was fun. All right, so moving on. Let's see what we got. First of all, thank you to Ian Nolan for collating these. And we got an Ian Nolan, capital G Geek, Braden Higby, Eric Blake, broke college student, Eric Oshiro, Roadrunner, and that's it. Good, we'll get through these. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I had a real basic, in fact, I'll show you this because this is actually worth showing you. I had back in the 3D days when I was really starting to get serious about the colonies, this would have been about two and a half, 3 years ago. I saw a guy on ArtStation who I really liked a lot, liked his work a lot, and I hired him to make me a custom rover because the family lives in the rover. I don't know what I paid him, $200 or something like that. Let me see if I find that animation. Where is that? And so he did just this basic. He did the vehicle, loved it. I just loved it, and And then I thought, well, since it's CG, I'm going to have to texture it. I'm going to have to do all of this stuff. I have to all rig it, all of that. But I just took this. I grabbed a frame from this. This is a low resolution version, and it looks fantastic. I'm going to find it. Just take a second here. No, I think that's it. Yep, here it is. So this is it was done on October 24th, 2022. So this is the rover that the family lives in. Hang on. This bastard never works. All right, hang on. I'm working on it, YouTube. It's worth it. It's just cool looking here. Add a media file. Yes. Add source. The other one should just drop in. Add a new source. Yes. Yes. Browse. Here it comes. Got it. So, and I should be able to just drag it into the one for Twitch. There it is. So, so that's their rover, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go in there, and I'm going to have to do all of the textures, and I'm going to have to do all of the metal and all of that stuff, and light it. And all I had to do was take one frame. This is low resolution. I think this is probably 480 image. All I had to do was take one frame of this thing and drag it into Nano Banana Pro, and it rendered it. And the physics on the wheel, when this thing starts from like, oh, look at that, it's going, yeah. When this thing starts on the ice and kicks up snow, it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. So we are in a whole new world, and it's just great. It's great. Just check something. Steve Young says, anytime you deviate from a known route, you have to inform your potential rescuers, or you're just Darwin people. Exactly. And same thing for, yeah, it's an aviation thing. If you're going cross country, you need to file a flight plan, especially if you're not going to follow roads. David Boutte wants to know, what kind of mileage does the rover get? The rover gets a lot of mileage. Like everything else, the small stuff in the colonies, like the robots, for example, are powered by radiothermal generators and RTG. It's a real simple nuclear reaction stuff. A little piece of uranium that gets hot and powers a thing for 25, 30 years. That robot has been in energy conservation mode for 67 years. And when they find it, it's got 4% of its battery life left. The rover probably runs on a small nuclear reactor, self-contained. Plug it in, lock it in, and it just goes. So, so the rover gets essentially unlimited mileage. That simplifying a little bit, but essentially these self-contained units will provide energy at a steady rate until they decay. I'm sure it adjusts when the load goes up, but generally speaking, he's got years. He's got unlimited distance. He's got limited time. Cummins wants to know, how big is this planet compared to Earth? I think it's I think it's probably about 60-70% the size of the Earth. It's certainly smaller than Earth. So anyway, I've thought a lot of this stuff out, and the fun stuff is putting it out in front of the audience. I mean, not the audience, the Stratosphere audience, and stress testing it and finding out what, because so much collective knowledge here in everything, physics and engineering and all that stuff, that sometimes I don't get it right, so we'll fix it right. Smaller than Earth, but higher density like Mercury. Exactly. Yes, precisely right. So nuclear to steam to turbines to generate electricity. Yeah, unless we can think of something better that's real physics. But basically, yes, it's a fission process. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. I don't anticipate the kind of breakthrough. Yeah, they're almost at 1G. Dave Bigby. One thing that's really cool, by the way, is that every single science fiction show ever, ever has had to have some explanation for why there's gravity in space. And they sometimes don't even talk about it. On the original Star Trek, you just took it for granted that there's artificial gravity. And then on The Expanse, they had the magnetic boots, but they also had the work constant accelerating, decelerating, which is a pretty good solution. But because we're doing this with AI, I can have ships where it's weightless at the core. They did that in Avatar rather well, I thought. And here's the thing, man. Even 2001 and 2001 got just about everything right. But the one thing that they didn't get right, and it's so funny because they got it wrong on Space 1999 as well. So if you're on Moonbase Alpha, just because you're indoors doesn't mean the gravity goes away. You have 1/6 gravity on the moon. And they never showed that. But with AI, you could just tell it. It's 1/6 gravity and weightlessness and all of that stuff. Now it takes a little bit of work because it doesn't have so much training data on that. But these guys can pull themselves weightless right down the core of the spine of a spaceship or a space station, and so weightlessness isn't an issue, and you don't have to go to CGI to do the weightlessness because you've already got photorealistic people. So I rendered, I think, 1 or 2 scenes in 0G, and it's pretty cool. So all right, here we go. Let's finally get going here. Ian Nolan, you addressed this a bit in a recent episode, but only one side of it. Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as head of Lucasfilm. Good riddance, we'll see. It's like, I'm not sure if she can be actually killed, only, disassembled, but we'll see. What you didn't mention is that she's getting replaced with Dave Filoni. Yeah, he's the person who loves Star Wars. He's entirely responsible for the few gems that have managed to survive through her leadership: Mandalorian Season 1, Clone Wars Season 8, and Andor. Is it possible that leadership from the superfan can get the patient off the deathbed? I don't know. I think they're doing a. Aren't they doing? Is it? Did they get Ryan Gosling for a fighter squadron thing? I think it's too late. As I mentioned on that episode, the Right Angle Show, it's like you got two people that are in love, and you're trying to save the marriage, and let's just say it's the guy who's got the problem, and he's got a drinking problem, and stress builds, and the wife says you got to do something. He goes to rehab, and and he's a little better for a while, and then he keeps drinking, and then he loses the money, and then boom 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 and boom boom boom, and then you have a split, and this, and then do you want to try and work it out? Yes, because they both really want to be together, right? That attraction is there, and we all have an attraction to the stuff that we love. I love Star Trek. You never know it to look at the room here, but obviously I do. But when you see things like Starfleet Academy, and Star Trek hasn't been like raped the way that Star Wars has. It hasn't. They haven't yet retconned Kirk or Spock. They retconned him into having a black half sister who he never mentioned. But they haven't destroyed Spock the way that they destroyed Luke Skywalker, and they destroyed Han Solo, and they destroyed Princess Leia. And as a quick aside, I've always wanted to ask this question. I never have. I just want to know whether I'm the only person who's experiencing this. So when you saw the J.J. Abrams trilogy, the last three movies, and you see Luke Skywalker, and you say, "Yep, that's Luke Skywalker. He just looks really old." And you look at Han Solo, and you say, "Yep, that's Han Solo. He looks really old." You see Lando Calrissian, and you say, "That's Lando Calrissian. He looks really old." I cannot connect Carrie Fisher to Princess Leia because of the plastic surgery that she's had. I cannot do it. I could do it up until a couple years ago, but now this person to me looks like somebody else playing Leia. She doesn't look like Carrie Fisher. To me, I cannot make the connection. I can't do it. And I'm wondering if I'm the only person who feels that way, because it's not like a little bit. It's just, I don't see the face in there. I just don't see it. And Carrie Fisher was so cute. She was so iconic. And this person that showed up for the last three movies, I can't connect to her. It's like they got another actress for the role. It's all in the face for me. A couple of people saying the weight, but I couldn't make the connection at all. Andrew DeLay says the drugs ruined her. Yeah, she had a lot of problems, but she did have a facelift, and fairly recently, because not too long before they shot Force Awakens. Before and after plastic surgery. Let's see if we get it. I want to get like a. I want to be fair, I want to get like a fairly recent, older picture of Carrie Fisher. Here. Yep, here's a perfect example. Person on the left looks like an older version of Princess Leia, and the person on the right I don't recognize. I just don't. I don't recognize it, and it really, not a Star Wars guy, but it knocked a lot of the member-berry things out of me for this particular character. Anyway, sorry about that. So Dave Filoni, I don't know. I think Filoni's probably better, but he's not great. What I was saying about the breakup is, so you go through marriage counseling, and then you do this, and then things better, and then he relapses again, and I think there comes a point in relationships where you really just get to the point where the amount of hurt has outweighed the amount of good, and the pattern has been repeating so many times. I just don't want to go through it anymore. And in a case like Star Wars, you have a much bigger problem than that, because canon is history. Right? You can't undo The Last Jedi. You can't undo it. And so what do you do about that? I mean, even if you were to declare The Last Jedi, if it were me, I would declare the entire J.J. Abrams trilogy fan fiction. But even then, you can't unsee it. It's just done. And I will say this: the one thing that I think is salvation, and I really, and this also solves the canon problem. There's a couple of at least one channel, and maybe two. I think one of them is called Star Wars Untold Tales, and it's somebody using AI to to fill in parts of the Star Wars story that you never saw. Like one of them is, how did Darth Maul survive after he got cut in half, in Phantom Menace? And it's not perfect AI, but it's the best AI I've seen that I'm not doing. And this guy has been he's been really careful to make he put a lot of care into making the faces believable, and so you see young Luke Skywalker, and you see Anakin go to Padme's grave, and it's really, really good. They're about 7 or 8 minutes long, and it's really good. It's the same as that Star Trek thing they did where Kirk goes and visits Spock when Spock dies, and he sees old versions of himself. That's fan fiction, but it's real, and so it's almost at the point where it's like you have so much just pent up rage at Lucasfilm and Disney, where the only way you can accept something new about Star Wars, this is actually an interesting point. I think the only way you bring back Star Wars is if you do it outside of Disney. It's completely inverted the whole canon thing. It's like, okay, canon now sucks. Canon, official canon, this is a Star Wars release from Lucasfilms. It's terrible. And then the fans kind of step in, and the fans say, nope, never happened. That, I think, is not only likely, it's actually happening. And Eric says even those AI fan projects are providing some nice context around the sequel trilogy. They are. They're doing some really great work, and that work's going to get better. And so I personally love this, not just because of the colonies. I just love the fact that it's like, okay, Disney, we've given you, billions and billions of our dollars, and we've given you 15 years, 20 years to fix this stuff, and you keep unloading things like the Acolyte on us, and Star Trek unloads Discovery on us, and all of this, and it's like, okay, we don't need you anymore. And there are lots of people creating AI stuff out there, but people that really love Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever are doing it. And the same thing applies, even though it wasn't AI. Same thing applies to Star Trek Continues. There've been some pretty good Star Trek fan fiction. I mean, there's was it Starship Farragut, which was pretty good, but Star Trek Continues and Anaxar both had put so much love and effort into it that it brought back those original feelings. Anaxar is Axanar, yeah. Axanar really looked good, and I was very disappointed that it never really happened. I don't know what the status on that is. If anybody knows what the status on Axanar is, let me know. I was friends with Gary Graham, who died a year ago now, I guess. But Axanar was good. But Star Trek Continues was, there's 2 or 3 episodes of that are just much better than the bottom third of the original series episodes. Now, what's interesting now is you can go back and make original Star Trek episodes. You can do it today. You can make original Star Trek episodes if you had good actors, and they would essentially be the continuing adventures of James T. Kirk as 35-year-old captain of the Enterprise, Spock, McCoy, the sets, all of it. And you could sample McCoy and Spock's and Sulu's and Chekhov's voices. You could have actors read them. It would look better than what the original series looks like. And that would be a fun thing to pick up. It'd be fun to do a whole Star Trek original series. And the amount of work necessary to do it compared to the amount of work that they put in on Star Trek Continues would be next to nothing. Next to nothing. You'd have to have an actor. In the case of Kirk, for example, he wouldn't have to be a impressionist. He wouldn't have to sound like Shatner, but he absolutely would have to have Shatner's rhythm. So you could sample Shatner's voice. You could obviously create an AI character of Shatner that looked. You'd see it in 1080, HD. The set, all of that stuff, everything. The lighting, all of that stuff. Chris Gordon says, yes, Star Trek Continues. Best episode was the fairest of them all, the sequel to Next Generation's Mirror Mirror. The episode I liked about the most about Star Trek Continues was the one where Kirk gets split into two parts, and one Kirk gets stuck on like the Farragut or something, and he's out there alone for 40 years or 50 years, and he comes back and he created like an AI companion out of Spock, or at least his memory of Spock, and he sold it, man. He really did. Vic sold it. He made me believe that James Kirk was out there alone for 50 years, and it was really moving episode. I thought it was great. And there's been some controversy around Vic. I've never met him. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to see the set. But at the very least, I'll say this: there were times watching Star Trek Continues where he would turn, and the lighting was so perfect, and his mannerisms were so perfect, that I forgot that I wasn't looking at William Shatner anymore. And the amount of love and care they put into that was great. I think my main criticism of Star Trek Continues is that he didn't have a supporting cast that had his level of fidelity. I couldn't imagine a better person to play Kirk. He's 100 times better than Chris Pine. And his Spock was okay. I'd say better than okay. I think his Spock was, C+, B- maybe. He looked alien, and you got to have a guy who looks weird, but he didn't have the facial strength that Spock had. The first McCoy was unwatchable. The second one was a little better, and everybody else was just not good, except for Scotty. They had Jimmy Doohan's son, and I bought him too. So, anyway, answering your question, Ian, I think it's too late for Star Trek. For Star Wars. I think it's probably too late for Star Trek. I think if I was going to save Star Trek, if somebody gave me the keys to Star Trek, I would do what I wanted. I just don't have the time for it. Although it's not a whole lot of work for a short. I would do what... If somebody gave me the keys to Star Trek, I would not try to pretend that all of this woke stuff didn't happen. I'd have either Kirk or some other strong guy come in and just say, due to Starfleet what Hegseth has done to the military, own the fact that we went way off the rails with this whole DEI thing, and just say those days are over. That's exactly what I would do. I'd bring in like a Pete Hegseth character into Starfleet, and have him turn it upside down and throw out all of these, obese DEI hires and these weepy Vulcans and these gay Klingons and all. They'd just be expelled, man, and it would be like. And then I'd start adding some pressure where both the Romulans and the Klingons are really about to launch a major offensive against the Federation, because they've seen how morally corrupt the Federation has become, and then all of a sudden you have to it's not just Starfleet and ships that are on the line. The entire structure of the Federation is is on the edge, where this Klingon and Romulan combined assault is just taking planets, and you're just falling back, and you're sacrificing entire fleets just to buy yourself some time, and then you have like a Doolittle moment where you get to sting them a little bit, and the morale's starting to build, and all of the peacetime weak admirals and captains are just, they're just gotten rid of. All the Starfleet ships are just patched together, holding on, and you've gotten some really, really, really advanced designs that are risky, but you're building, and then you let their overconfidence be their downfall. That's what happened with the U.S. I would retell the story of the U.S. Navy in the Pacific. That's what I would do. I'd start with Pearl Harbor, and I would just basically say, okay, we're gonna fall back. We're gonna fall back. Can't take the offensive for the first 7-8 months. We can do one little thing here, maybe, or one little thing there. Maybe we get lucky. We have a midway, but we are just falling back. But meanwhile, we are gearing up, and all of the old admirals and stuff, all of these, it's a subtle thing, man. But if you know what you're looking at, you know what you're looking at. When they changed the Starfleet logo from the awesome arrowhead vector, what they did was they kept the design, but they put it in an oval. So it used to be sharp and pointy and kind of masculine. Now it's warm and soft and no sharp edges, and it'd be like, rip all that stuff off. And I'll tell you, the only character that I have ever seen since Star Trek original series that I really liked, and I'm including Next Generation and all that, the only one I really, really liked was, oh, come on, I'm just trying to remember his name now. Hang on a second. Jellicoe. I thought Jellicoe was like, oh yeah, man. He was great. And Ronnie Cox is a terrific actor. And I hadn't seen the Jellicoe episodes until a couple months ago, but he was only in 3 or 4 of them. Comes in and apparently relieves Picard for some reason, and everybody has a hissy fit because we have a mean captain now instead of a nice captain who sits around and drinks tea. And Jellicoe's basically saying to Riker, "Look, I think you're slack. I think you're lazy. I'd can you if I could." And those engines will be online at 0400 or else. And he's so mean, he's so hard. He's being a captain is not just ordering people around. Yeah, it is actually. And I thought he was great. Yeah, David Boutte says Jellicoe needed to be the fleet admiral. He's only in 2 episodes. Is that all? Made an impression on me, but that's because he's a steely-eyed missile man, and so there you go. So I don't know, Ian. I mean, it's worth a try, but I kind of think it's too far gone. Okay, Capital G Geek. Greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. Your What We Saw series may not be getting views on Daily Wire. They permanently lost any possibility of membership for me over the defense of the 2020 election. They are available on pirate sites and have about 1,000 hits per season. That's nice to know. Being in the industry, how do you feel about piracy? Not the kind of piracy you originally engaged in when you purchased a copy of software, but the ones where fan uploaded to sites and people can download it for free, more like giving away mixtapes and then selling illegitimate copies. I've been trying to create a sci-fi space station with AI, but it's a bit tarded. It is. Is there an image-generating AI that will allow you to independently modify images as opposed to fully recreating them with slightly different attempts? Should I refresh my remedial Blender skills? Okay, 2 different questions. My attitude about copyright on anything that I've done on the political stuff is go for it. Occasionally I get people say, would you mind if I use this, or I'm going to do a talk if I want. I think, thank you very much for asking. I deeply appreciate it. The answer is yes, automatically yes. In fact, I think it was Marusha Dark who found a website that had, I think it had like 30 or 40 of my afterburners all in one place, and I was very great. And I think it was Cam Newton who archived them. When I found that, I was overjoyed because the PJTV channel that they were originally uploaded to is gone. And I saved my favorite ones, but that's only like 12 of them. So, yes, go for it. Spread it around. And I think I probably take the same attitude. In fact, we've talked about this before. I think I'll take the same attitude about the colonies too. Oh, was it you, Eric? Thank you. Um, there's there's two ways to do this. One is kind of the Disney way, where you go and sue everybody who's infringing on your copyrights, and CBS knocked off, Axonar and all of this stuff. And then the other way is just to roll with it and realize that that anything that people do is generally good for your IP. Um, I think, I mean, Star Trek. I saw Star Trek for free. If Star Trek had been behind a paywall when I was a kid, I never would have seen it. It's got to be available for free. I think The Chosen has done this perfectly. The Chosen did an equity crowdsourcing. They could have made The Chosen available only to the people who paid, and they might have done that initially. I think maybe in the beginning you had to have the app to watch it. But I feel the same way about this that Dallas does. Not make it. You need to make the investors and the crowdsource people happy, but they're in it for the same reason that BillWhittle.com members are, and that is they want to spread the message. So I think make it available to everybody, and just have the canon thing so that you can have some sort of way to resolve the what if somebody wants to come up with the Hello Kitty planet, right? That's it. In Star Citizen, you can buy a bunch of different skins for the ships, but you can't make your own skins, because if you could make your own skins, then people would make skins that were just spray painted this, or it would be, it'd be like a meme ship or something like that. So I would be real loose on that, and in fact, not only would I be loose, I want to make assets available. Is it 140? Thank you, David Boutier. I'll copy that and put it in. Yes, this is the one I found. Oh my God, who is that child? Who is that kid? Bearing Arms Cam and Cam. Yeah, it's Cam. Yeah, I'll put it up in YouTube. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have this link, and it's great. So yes, I'm 100% in favor of sharing it, and I'm happy to do it. I'm proud of the work, and it was right place at the right time for that. As far as your second question goes, I've been trying to create a. Let me answer this for you as quickly as I can. I can do this real fast. Hang on a second. Where'd it go? Hang on. It's here somewhere. Got so many windows open here. I just have to find this little bugger. It's not there. And it is. You? Nope. I just had it open, so it's here somewhere. It's worth showing you this because it's a serious question. The short answer is, if you'd asked me this 2-3 weeks ago, I would have said, get your Blender skills out. But hang on, where did I do that in? Did I do that in Higgsfield? Or did I do that in NBP? Hang on. I'll find it. It's worth the wait. Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, great. So, Is that an animation? It sure is. So check this out. That one's junk. So that's, yeah, it's just a bad animation engine. So anyway, here, we'll use this one. Yeah, that's perfectly good. Okay, so here, using, I think it was virtually, it was definitely Nano Banana Pro. I took, it's just, it takes so long to scroll through all of this old stuff. And you know, none of these AI generation things let you delete the renders. At least most of them don't. Like really get rid of them. Which is very strange. Sorry. It's got all these different. I can't even tell where I am anymore. It's worth showing though. It's not there. Okay, definitely not there. Higgsfield. Higgsfield has gone from being unusable to being like a real leader here. No, I did not. Okay, this will do. Come on. Hang on, I'm sorry about the delay. I know it's frustrating. It's 480. Okay, that'll work. Download this guy. Okay, so here. This is what I started with. I started with a still image. All right, here we go. So I started with this. This was a render in Blender, a render in Blender, and it was a. I showed you the animation, but this was a still I used. Okay, I used that still. Hang on, YouTube, coming. Took this still. That is geometry only. There's no textures, minimal lighting, right? That's basically what I started with, and from that, in essentially 2 iterations, without putting any work into it, because I have to put some work into this rover, get the hero version of the rover locked down. But from that, I was able to generate this. Again, this is not. This is just to show. This is just to show you what the image will do. It's not like great work or anything. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Sorry. I was able to generate. That's so strange. Okay, we'll do it again. Did I close that tab? I didn't, did I? Why is it not? Okay, here it is. Sorry. No, I wouldn't have gone to this trouble if I'd known it was going to take so long. I'll try it again. Download. Come over here. Yes. Okay. So using the still image that you see here, I was able to take this still image, the gray one that you're looking at now, drag it into Nano Banana Pro, type one prompt saying, take the rover, put it on an ice planet on the shore of an ocean, and give it a metallic surface texture, and then animate it, and this is the result. This is crummy animation, but you get the drift. The physics of the wheel, even in this engine, which is not the best engine, they're perfect. So yes, I would say you can probably do it. In fact, you can do it because I did it with images of a rover. And hang on. Hang on. I mean, I just found an image of a rover on the internet, and I dragged it into Nano Banana Pro. Oh, perfect. Perfect example. Okay, so check this out. So this is the product of two still images. It's a rover image from the internet, and it's a habitat image from the internet. And I rendered the background in Midjourney, and I said, put them together, and this is what we got. That's not bad, man. That's not bad at all. If you look at the wheels, they're perfect. The lighting is perfect. So I found the image of the rover, and then I found an image of the hab. I picked a background, I set up the lighting, and it just did it. So, yes, it's miraculous, man. And the difference between AI slop and stuff that looks really good is getting the details right and the basics, and that's what we're going through right now. So, there you go. Capital G Geek again with another one. Greetings from swamps in Northern Virginia. Again, still swampy up there. Aldrich Ames recently died in prison, which got me thinking that maybe America's Forgotten Villains would work. Everybody knows serial killers, but how many know about the Weather Underground, the Rosenbergs, and all the rest? Yeah, well, good riddance to these people. I think we get enough bad news on a regular basis here. I loved America's Forgotten Heroes. I wish we could have done that as a video series. And, because Daily Wire didn't do it as a video series, the chance of me being able to do those stories is higher because I wouldn't be competing against video that they've got. I'd be creating video. We did the Doolittle raid. We did Frank Luke, short version of Frank Luke. I've still got the Frank Luke miniseries sitting here, ready to go. And since none of those were produced in terms of making videos, you could probably make a deal with Daily Wire for non-exclusive rights to it and split revenue or something like that. So, yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. Fame Name says, is there an AI that can take this AI-generated video and convert it into a Blender 3D mesh video? Yes, there is. There's a number of software pieces that do it. A lot depends on how clean the video image is. But yes, you can take I wanted to take a bunch of the habitats that I did in Midjourney. I did hundreds of them, and of those hundreds, 7, 8, or 9 of them are just great. And I want to make them permanent. So let's save that process for next episode or the episode after that, because what I'm trying to do, Taffy 3 is the ultimate story. Taffy 3 is the story that I will tell, and we're really close to being able to do that now. But let's do it, because during this week between now and next Monday, I will have locked the rover. And if I can lock the rover and do scenes in the rover, I will tell you the process that I used on how to turn two-dimensional images into reliable 3D, into something that AI can understand. So there you go. I did not see I just skimmed through the Fat Electricians thing on Frank Luke. I was glad to hear his name mentioned. I didn't find out until very recently that when they shot down that Chinese balloon, they I don't know if they called it were the two planes Luke 1 and Luke 2 or something like that, but that was pretty cool. So there we go. Eric Blake. So you got two Eric Blakes, got a Brook House student, and Eric Oshiro, Roadrunner. Okay, we get those. Eric Blake, tonight the case of the forced perspective. So, Bill, needless to say, I'm in vehement agreement with Ian's general points above, although I must correct a few of his facts. He means the 7th season of Clone Wars. Okay, so this is just, credit detail. I'm already aware, before we even begin the stream tonight, that nothing either of us could probably say to convince you to give the franchise another chance, regardless of Filoni's vastly superior reputation over KK, irreparable, irrevocable, irredeemable, and all that. But I'm very curious, Bill, in the right angle, you guys brought up Kathleen Kennedy's post-sequel screw-ups on a very high potential products getting axed, including the show that Gina Carano would have led. So, Bill, if those post-sequel screw-ups hadn't happened, and had we gotten those projects, would you have checked them out? Yeah, I'll go see just about any Star Wars movie. I saw Avatar, and there's a lot less to Avatar than a bad Star Wars movie. Yeah, and in this, I am qualitatively different than I am with anime. I just can't watch anime. Period. I love to watch a good Star Wars movie. Looking at the trailers for Rogue One, I thought, oh man, this is just going to be a girl boss thing. I thought Rogue One was the best thing that they produced since Lucasfilm was sold to Disney. I thought Rogue One was actually a pretty cool movie. There have been moments of the other things. So, look, it's really not a. I don't want to say it's not a fair question. It's just it's not really relevant to me because I was just never really a Star Wars guy. I'll go see Star Wars. I like Star Wars, but I see these guys waving their lightsabers and stuff, and I'm just thinking, all I need is my phaser, and I'll just burn them all down. So it's just a generational thing. I don't think we need to go into much more detail about this because we spent so much time talking about it earlier, but I do think that the realization I had while talking with you guys about this is an interesting one. I think the only credibility left now is non-canonical credibility. I think that the fans have had enough of Disney, and I don't think Disney Star Wars can be resurrected, but I do think that fans telling new stories could do it. And I think that if somebody got a hold of this AI technology and really, really put the work into the script, they could retcon the retcon and produce a version of Luke Skywalker as an older man. I think the answer, Eric, is this. I think it's going to be up to the fans to create 20, 30-minute, maybe even shorter, but at least 20, 30-minute shorts that show this is what Luke Skywalker actually did. This is how Han Solo actually died. This is this. You can use Carrie Fisher's face prior to the surgery. You can do all of that stuff. And I really think that's a kind of an important realization that I had tonight, that the only credibility left is it's such an inversion of 25, 30 years of, or 40 years of pop culture fandom, where the only credible media now is fan fiction. The studio produced stuff is garbage. It used to be exactly the other way around. So there we go. Another Eric Blake. P.S. Have you seen the Avatar 3 box office reports? Apparently it's crossed the 1 billion mark at roughly the same point in its run as its predecessors. You certainly were right about that argument when Avatar 2 came out, because I didn't think Avatar 2 was going to do very well, and I think it's the third largest grossing film of all time, right? So, isn't it Avatar followed by, is it Endgame? And then Avatar 2. But anyway, yes, it's going to make a ton of money. It'll probably end up in the top 10. And I saw a guy, and I wish I'd saved it because it was really good, did an analysis of the whole Avatar franchise. And he said the reason nobody talks about it and the reason it's not in the pop culture is because it's not a movie, it's a ride. It's a 3 hour theme park ride through another world. And the only star of Avatar is Pandora. And I think he basically said that Cameron kind of almost intentionally did it that way. I don't think that's, you would do something intentionally like that, but it's almost like the human story, the story doesn't really matter. People don't care about the story. That's why hardly anybody ever goes back to see Avatar twice. I think I saw the first one probably 2 or 3 times because I couldn't believe it. I saw Avatar 2 once. I saw Avatar 3 once with great 3D, 60 frames a second 3. It was fantastic. But I have no desire to go back and see it again because there's nothing to go see except for the planet and the water and the creatures and all of it. So it's an amusement park ride. And that's why people don't ever talk about it when they're not watching it. So yes, I think he's going to. I think he's going to make a ton of money off of this. I'm not sure it'll do as well as Avatar 2, but it might. And I don't really care. I just don't have any dog in this fight. And I've seen a lot of backstage stuff with Cameron, in the motion capture stuff. And I will tell you this, Eric. I think within 2 or 3 years, now Cameron's a smart guy. He's a billionaire communist who really hates America and hates human beings, but he's a smart guy. He's been on bleeding edge of the technology from the effects in Terminator 2 and then in The Abyss, that water creature goes, all that. I think that if he doesn't make the switch to AI, he's going to get lapped pretty quick because he has pushed CGI to its absolute limits. Avatar 3 is just gorgeous, but it's not. He's not trying for photorealism. He wants to show you a world that's just stunning. It's just visual eye candy. That's all it is. And there's certainly a place for that, and he's got that market cornered. But I think there's a big place for like super realistic science fiction. And if you're going to write that kind of stuff, you got to do the kind of things I was talking about earlier, which is how come these people who've been on the planet for 3 months discover something that people who've been on the planet for 67 years haven't discovered? That goes with, that kind of discipline goes with the reality. You can't have a super realistic science fiction universe and then tell stories in it that don't pass the, oh come on test. That's the only thing I genuinely fear. Well, maybe I fear boring is worse than that, but right up there is writing something where people go, oh come on, come on, really. I just work really hard at that. I'll give you one more little example. By the time I'm done, I'll leak the entire script. But when Will and Jake pull up to this frozen habitat, they get out of the vehicle and they walk to the door, and there's a big lever to operate the airlock because it's a very simple structure. And Jake's a strong guy, and he gets to that door, and he starts leaning into it and pushing really hard, and it's not budging. And he says, "We'll run back to the rover and bring me the emergency axe, the fire axe." And so Will runs back and brings the axe, and then Jake takes the flat end of the axe and just starts bashing on this thing. And finally it moves, and then it moves a little bit more. Finally he's able to because he's got to break down all this rust and all this frost. He finally gets the thing to the point where it's unlocked, and he pulls on the door, and the door still won't open. So he takes the blade of the axe to the seal between the door and the structure, and he starts wedging it. He starts working it. Roadrunner says no WD-40 in space. There's no WD-40 on the rover because he did not expect to find a frozen habitat. So he improvises. But the point of it is that I wrote it in such a way where he goes to the door and tries to open the door because he's a strong guy, but he's not strong enough, so he's stopped. Now he has to think on the spot. He has to innovate. Okay, what do we need? I thought about saying, we'll go back to the rover and get me the sledgehammer. And then I thought, why would they have a sledgehammer with them today? That doesn't make, why, it's convenient. This is the kind of discipline I'm talking about. So I thought, well, what can he use? Okay, he's probably got an emergency axe. Okay, so use the emergency axe. And then once you got the lever open, would that mean the door would open? No. Now you gotta actually pry the thing open. When he gets the outer door open and he goes into the airlock, the inner door is stiff, but one tap with the axe starts moving it, and the inner door opens much more easily because it's not exposed to the elements for nearly 7 decades. So this kind of thing is what makes something believable, where it's the antithesis of the Mary Sue plot line where everything just falls into place. Well, isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? Isn't that convenient? It's like he didn't expect. It's kind of like a good way to think of it is it's like the definitive scene in Apollo 13 where the engineers get together and they say we got to make a round filter fit into a square hole or vice versa or whatever, using the stuff here on the table, socks and all the things they have, right? So if you're disciplined as a writer, you can't have an adapter on board Apollo 13 pre-built just in case you need it, because that's not interesting. What's going on? Well, our carbon dioxide levels are building up to fatal levels. Okay, we'll just use the ones from the command module. Well, the command module ones are round and the one in the LEMs are square, or vice versa. Oh crap, we got a problem now. That's interesting. What would be much less interesting would be to say, why not just use the adapter? What adapter? We got a square round adapter just in case this kind of emergency happens. Okay, well that was this. You got to find a way, as Eric says. You got to work at it, and that comes off. David Boutte says square for the command surface module, round for the LEM. Okay, that has the sense of believability. Is when something unexpected happens, you go out there with plan A, and plan A doesn't work, and doesn't work for a logical reason. That door had been frozen and thawed and frozen, thawed probably 20 times in the 60 years, something like that. So there you go. Talking Dog doesn't appear until it's pretty late. I don't introduce. Gummins asked when does the Talking Dog appear? I don't bring the Talking Dog in until about 7 or 8 minutes into the first episode. I wanted to sort of set the stage first before I really got down to the big deal. Somebody asked earlier about pets in space when I was showing off Bunky. Jake is going to, probably 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the first season, Jake is going to buy Claire a cat, and it's going to cost a fortune. And that's going to be the first crack in the resentment ice. So, yeah. And I thought, well, geez, how am I going to animate a cat? Well, I have to. Did anybody ever see there are 2 classic moments from Ricky Gervais' show called Extras. The immortal one, the one that is just one of the best comedy scenes ever written, is the one where he's at the nightclub and he meets David Bowie and tries to impress Bowie with the fact that he's got a TV show and tells him it's not very good, and Bowie just sits down and writes a song about how horrible Ricky Gervais is. That's brilliant. The second one that's very good, if you haven't seen it, you need to look it up, is when Ricky Gervais goes to read for a play that's directed by Ian McClellan, and Ian McClellan explains to Ricky Gervais what's acting. He says, no. Peter Jackson came to me and asked me to play Gandalf the Wizard, and I said to him, I said very clearly, you do understand that I'm not actually a wizard. And Peter said, yes, I do, but what I want you to do is to use your acting powers to pretend that you're a wizard. And then McClellan goes on to say, what did I know what to say? It's written down in the script. How did I know where to move? People told me where to go. And it's just, it's just so cut and dried like that. And that's kind of what, kind of what bad writing is. It's just this sort of, we need this to happen. So it's a Deus ex machina, right? It's God is the machine. Something happens and we're stuck, and then and I'll tell you, man, this really started with that, at least as I remember, it started with Next Generation, because Next Generation was the first time that I can remember hearing, somebody's been kidnapped and they're on board the ship, and the ship is cloaked or whatever. And Next Generation was the first time I heard people saying things like, well, if we were to reverse the ionic flow of the deflector beams, it might set up an anti-tachyon field that would compress the space-time wormhole just enough for us to allow a photon torpedo to, just this and it was just lazy. Oh, God from the machine, thank you. Yeah, technobabble. Quibo says wood is expensive. You know how hard it is to bring wood to the colony? Yes. If you have actual wood chairs in your house, you're rich. And because of that, actual wood chairs are valuable. People would rather touch wood than touch plastic that's got a wood grain finish on it. Fame Name says, am I having alien life forms? I have, and they're going to be really, really alien. They're going to be, it's another beautiful thing about working with the AI, is I'm not limited to guys in a rubber suit. And I'm not limited to, I'm bashing TNG a little hard here, but, this alien race has ridges across the front of their forehead, and the other one has ridges on the side of their forehead. So aliens can be aliens, really aliens. And I like the idea that on a planet like Niflheim, there's very little biodiversity, and the animals are really very kind of simple. Almost like, obviously it's an ocean animal, but almost like, trilobites. I wanted to say troglodytes. Trilobites. So, is it self-sufficient in food? Air Techie says no, it's not. Although they're working on it. There's a term that they used in Traveler 2300 that I liked an awful lot. It was the stuff that you had to bring from Earth. It was extremely expensive because it was very heavy and you had to move it, but you couldn't start your own farms without it. They called it pay dirt. And what they would do is they would ship topsoil from Earth, because the topsoil contains all of those things that you don't normally think of but are there. Not just the nutrients and things like that, but you get the funguses and all of these other things that make life possible. So 2300 had pay dirt, and you had to ship it out. You couldn't just synthesize it. You could, over time, start growing plants in it, then you start mulching those plants. You could basically expand your pay dirt thing, but it took a while. Hey, here's a super chat from Lapco92. Hey, Lapco, good to hear from you. A missed opportunity with Star Trek was not making a show set at the same time as the original series, but a different ship like Exeter or Saratoga. You keep the great aesthetic, but can do new stories. Yes, I kind of agree with that. I kind of do. I think it would have been fun to do that. I would actually, I gave a brief period when they were making the Star Trek fan fiction stuff with Star Trek, with Starship Farragut, and obviously a couple others, and then there was obviously Star Trek Continues, which is head and shoulders above the rest. And I thought, if I wanted to do that for myself, what would I do? And I think I would probably take the Constitution. Even though it's the first of the class, it'd just be cool to be the captain of NCC 1700. So, Quibo says, how would they evolve? They would evolve very slowly, because this sun is cooler than our sun, which doesn't, it's not immediately obvious, but essentially, if my basic biology understanding is correct, well, I know my astronomy is correct, but I think the biology follows. So if our sun is a G-class star, it's essentially white. It looks yellow in the daytime and red at sunset, but it's white light. K stars are orange, M stars are red. So if you take a K star, it's dimmer than our sun, but it's not only dimmer than our sun, it's more orange than our sun. But what's really important there is the ultraviolet is lower. And if the ultraviolet, this is my working model for the colonies, if the sun's ultraviolet is lower than Earth's, then its evolution is going to be slower than Earth's. And if its ultraviolet is higher than Earth, then it's going to be faster than Earth, because I believe essentially that's the primary driver of mutations, and mutations are the driver of macro evolution. OBAFGKM is right, Roadrunner, but since I used to teach astronomy, you might be interested to know that it's WOBAFGKMRNS. OBAFGKM is a classic mnemonic. Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. That's how you remember the 4 star types. But the actual later sequence, when they added all the other ones, is wow, oh, be a fine girl, kiss me right now or soon. Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me. I can't tell you how many times I've used that. I used it just a few seconds ago. So, yeah, radioactive could drive that too, yeah. So, anyway. So, let's see. We're almost done here. I got a couple more to go. Broke College student, Erica Shiro, and Roadrunner. Broke College student. Hello, Bill. A couple thoughts I've had on the colonies that I don't believe we've addressed. My own perspective, so curious what other viewers think. Any criticism is well-meaning, taken that way. Viewer perspective. Numbers. Warhammer has a great setting, but writers do not understand scale. Massive space wars with less men than in World War II, but millions of world to pull from. For you, how many people would be on Earth, colonies, orbital stations, moons, asteroids, etc.? How many people would man a ship? Why would ships be that size relative to the population and the industry? What's the size of the industry? Why not prepare colonies with mostly autonomous robots and then follow up with the people? It's all very rational. Narrative sense. Flowing from the numbers conversation, how would the colonies effectively resist against the villains given that presumed difference in manufacturing capacity? Why would any colony not consist of mostly cities? Survival would require specialized equipment, knowledge, or resources. Colony habits should be closer to our remote island mansions instead of Alaskan off-grid cabins. Okay. Crowdfunding perspective, narrative and production pacing. How long is each episode? How long is each season? How long between seasons? With 5 different storylines, I think you could run into Star Citizen's problems of overpromising and under-delivering. If I were a random person considering a small donation, I might be hesitant because of the production issues, even if I really like the concept. Okay, fair questions, great questions. Let me address them one by one. Yes, Warhammer has millions of planets, quadrillions of individuals, and the battles that are approximately the size of World War II. So this also addresses the how can the colonies fight off the manufacturing capability of Earth or the inner systems. When I was writing the Aurora script about the mission to Jupiter, I'd already started plotting out Aurora 2, where this private company, it was SpaceX before SpaceX happened. I wrote this in 2005, and I had this American private company basically go to war in space against China. And one little bit of dialogue between these two characters was the one character who was against this idea said, Sam, they've got 1 billion people and we've got 300. And his reply is, yes, but how many of those billions do they have up there? And I thought that was a really kind of an astute analysis of it. How much hardware do they have up there? How many people do they have up there? If we can get 300 people up there and they can get 300 people up there, I understand China's got a much bigger population than us, and that they're probably, and there's no question their average level of education is higher than ours, but our 300 people are better than their 300 people, and that's where our best 300 people are better than their best 300 people, and that's where the tale is going to be told. So one of the we mostly know by now, if you've been around for a while, we have these very, very expensive to produce probability, like I'm calling them dice lines, or probability stations. And they have to travel through real space to set this thing up. And because they're so precious, there's no interstellar travel without them. The question is, why wouldn't you just cut the gates? Now you don't have to destroy the gate, you could just simply not charge a gate, and that's as good as blocking the line. And I suppose that's like a special operations thing, but actually destroying a line, I think, has got to be so repugnant that it's essentially the same as using tactical nuclear weapons. So there's two things that make this a fair fight, or at least a believable fight. No question that Earth has overwhelming resource advantage over the colonies. And I'm going to use the American Revolution model as an example, both in terms of the Army, but especially in terms of the Navy. So, Great Britain ruled the seas. It turned out, I learned this from the John Paul Jones episode. America made 7 warships, I think 7 frigates, and they were the best ships in the world. And the tragedy is that one of them was run aground, one of them was caught in harbor, one of them was captured by the British, so the British renamed it whatever the hell it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was USS something or other. Then it became HMS the same thing, and the British said it was the best ship in the Royal Navy. So these guys have to win the fight the same way that the colonists win the fight, not by defeating the Earth forces, but just simply making it, just making the game not worth the candle. And corollary to that is the Earth government is it doesn't have the motivation. It's got the manpower. It doesn't have the motivation. Now you got to be careful about that, because the Japanese thought that they could win the war against an industrial superpower just because they had, more fighting spirit. Turned out that didn't make much of a difference at all. Although, if the Japanese calculation had been correct and Americans had been as weak as the Japanese thought they were, then they probably would have gotten away with it. They genuinely thought that after Pearl Harbor, we would just say, oh, well, they sank our Pacific fleet, so I guess we'll give them Hawaii, and we'll just keep the Eastern Pacific, and they can have everything, on the western side. It never occurred to them what this would do to us. That's exactly right. It's really perfect. Copy Shinato just nailed it. Earth government has low T. That's it. And this makes it interesting, because it's not just the fact that they're the underdogs. They have to be better. They have during the Cold War. I did one of the episodes where I said talked about the John Boyd briefing for energy maneuverability theory and how that gave us the F-15 and the F-16. And I said it was the most important briefing of the Cold War, and that 2 hours probably changed the course of history, because America was not prepared to, society was not prepared to take the kind of losses that the Soviets were prepared to take. And so we couldn't just throw guys into the grinder, and we weren't going to. We value our people more than we value the money, so America went down the road of we have to make a jet that can kill 5 or 10 of the enemy jets, because their stuff isn't as good as ours, but they got a lot of it. Lenin said that quantity has a quality all its own, and that was the American strategy. Was they outnumber us 5-1 or 8-1 or 10-1 or whatever in tanks, so our tanks are going to have to be able to kill at least 10 of theirs, and that's that's ended up what happened. I mentioned in the Cold War series, I said we never got a chance to see how American and that big clash of armor in the Fulda Gap, because World War III never happened, but we did get to see the M1 Abrams against the T-72 in the Battle of 72 Easting, and you could argue that the Iraqis weren't maybe as well trained as the Soviets. I'm not entirely sure that's true. That was it was a pretty elite unit, and McMaster just took his platoon of M1s and Bradleys and just went through top Russian tanks and just, he was killing 1 or 2 a second. And so that's the kind of fight it's going to be. And that's the kind of side I want to be on. So there it is. And Grandpa Buff and all the rest of it. And the A-10. So anyway, that's basically it. Yep. Okay, so we got Eric Oshiro, and we have Roadrunner. And these are nice short questions. Hello, aloha, Bill. Here's a screen cap from Starfleet Academy promo with Voyager's doctor checking in on cadets. There's no palm big enough for my face right now. Oh, these. It's just so unbelievably weak. It's written by soy boys and 20-something feminists who think that a military academy is no different than going to Vassar or where was that place where I spoke? Oberlin. Here, look at this. If you can bear it. Oops. Just look at this. I saw a little bit of a clip of Tig Notaro, or whatever her name is, where she's lecturing a class, and not inspiring. So look at this. This is the best that the Federation of Planets, not just Earth, this is the best that the entire Federation of Planets has. This is their bench. And I see 3 chicks, a super tall, skinny, thin, kind of ineffective-looking male in the background, and then some features in the background. But clearly, Starfleet Academy is here for the women. It's a women's game. This warfighting thing. God, I hate this. And I should have cut the caption for this as well. Should have clipped it. The caption says, "I think I swallowed my comm badge." Those are horrible uniforms, but look at the quality of the people. I mean, these are liberal arts people, and they're out of shape. If I was running Starfleet Academy, I would have uniform sizes that are proportional to height, and if you can't fit into the uniform, you are declined. We're not going to make bigger uniforms for you because you can't control yourself. How are we supposed to expect you to command a starship and have the discipline to do that when you don't have the discipline to stop eating, moon pies and Twinkies? I don't buy it. It doesn't make sense. It's not internally consistent. So, yeah, dude. And thanks for the screenshot, Eric. And I'm glad I got a chance to do that other thing before I saw it, because it actually worked out pretty well. P7 2017 says, not going to make a no fat chicks joke. I would make a no fat chicks joke. I would have a, that would actually, that would, you know what, that's what I would do. If I was taking over Star Trek, I would have that. I would have Starfleet Academy. I'd have a traditional looking building, and then it would say that in Latin. It would be in Latin over the door. Cities in Flight was an interesting science fiction series, and the official city. So the whole idea was that Earth was running out of resources, and they created something called the spin dizzy drive, which the more mass you use, the better it performed, and this thing would form like a complete sphere around a city, and then the whole city would just lift off, and our cities just went out throughout the universe, fighting battles and doing things, and New York was the king of the cities back when he wrote it, and the motto of New York City on City Hall was "Mow your lawn, lady." That was the motto of New York City. Quibo says, oh, by the way, Quibo, I got your email, and I should have mentioned that earlier. I haven't had a chance to reply to it, but thank you very much for it. And it was very, very kind sentiments, and I look forward to talking to you about it more. Eric says, if it helps Bill, there's been a canonical multiverse in Star Trek since Mirror Mirror. Bad shows can thus be shrugged off, no mas, no fas. I think I am so over multiverses as a way of getting out of problems. I just hate it. And while I'm on the subject, there's of things that I hate. Be here for several months, but I was trying to remember the first time I saw this because it's everywhere now, and I just can't stand it. And it's this idea of the telescoping helmet, right? Star-Lord's got it. Spider-Man's got it. Iron Man doesn't because his thing actually kind of assembles, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, we're out in space. You know, it is so easy and lazy and awful. And can I tell you, I didn't take it down out of, I'm sorry, I just took it down out of Twitch. I didn't take it down out of, I'm sorry, I took it down out of, I didn't take it down off of Twitch. Sorry about that. Yes, it's brutal. Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know. This, you know, the helmet that comes out of nowhere, telescoping helmet, telescoping this, telescoping that, all of this stuff. And I'm trying to remember where I saw it first. And I think the first time I saw it was in the Lost in Space movie, the '98 or whatever, with William Hurt and Joey, who was Major West, had that helmet come out the first time, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool, I guess. But now it's just so ubiquitous. It's like Spider-Man appears, he's wearing his spider mask. That's cool. Now we want to see his face. Does he take the mask off? Nope, just gone. And it's like, okay, come on, man, you know. It's tired. It's really tired. Iron Man's entire new scoop does it tell nanotechnology out of a little box in his chest. Well, where's the mask come from? So I take these things seriously. By the way, I never knew this. I saw this. I saw this probably 2 hours before we rolled the shows today. I didn't know this, but apparently, Christian Bale, when Christian Bale found out he wasn't going to be playing Batman after the Nolan trilogy, he said he stared out into space for an hour. He was so upset about it. I can't believe that. I thought that Christian Bale walked away from that movie. The idea that you wouldn't bring him back is insane. And for Ben Affleck, my God, Christian Bale was far and away the best Batman. Although I have to tell you, before the reboot really happened back in '89, I want to say, when they told me that it was going to be Michael Keaton, I just said, oh, this is going to be a catastrophe. But I thought Michael Keaton was fan-frickin-tastic. But nobody, Christian Bale he's just fantastic. And when I heard that he was like not just upset, but like devastated that he didn't get to play Batman again. I thought, what is wrong with these people? Because I thought Ben Affleck was. I didn't see any of them. Didn't see any of those Justice League things. Guibo says, I took your ideas for Will, so strength for a boy character like Will Robinson. Yeah. Make him earn it. He can be bright, he can be inquisitive, but he's not Space Jesus. That's Deadpool's job. Lapco92 in Super Chat says, Michael Moorcock did some good writing. He's credited with the multiverse concept, which he used to correct inconsistencies. It's a lazy tool now. Yes, exactly. Adam West is Batman, says Roadrunner. You know what's funny? It's a true story. I think this is probably the second most delusional thing I heard. Adam West played Batman in 1969. Sorry, 65, I think, first year. 65, I think. And when they decided to bring back Batman for the first movie, it was 65, and that first Tim Burton movie didn't come out till 88 or 89, something like that. And Adam West really thought he was going to get that job. He really did. He actually really thought he was going to get the movie. I love him. Don't get me wrong. How do you not love Adam West? I love Adam West, but I think he was pretty well clear from all of his work that he's kind of messed up in the head. That's the second most delusional thing I ever heard. The most delusional thing I ever heard in show business was George Takei saying, thinking that the Star Trek legacy is going to be carried on by Captain Sulu. And sure enough, by God, they gave him his own ship. He got the Excelsior, and he said, anybody else, you know this scene, right? First time you see Sulu in the captain's chair, he's sitting there, and somebody brings him a little dish and a teacup, and it's got the beautiful gold inlaid United Federation of Planets, and he's just sitting in the chair. And somebody hands him his tea, and he takes the little teacup, takes a little sip, and I thought, well, that's why your mission was to take the Excelsior and go do 2 years of mapping of galactic gas anomalies. Lapco92 beat me to it. I thought, it's impossible to get weaker than this. Sulu was by far my least favorite character on the original series. And I'm watching Star Trek VI, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they actually gave him a command, and all he does is sit there and sip tea and go, my God. And I'm thinking, man, this is just so pathetic. And then at the end, when Excelsior is rushing to get to the battle, and Sulu says, come on. And his, I guess his helmsman says, we can't go any faster, sir. If we go any faster, she'll fly apart. We'll fly her apart then. That actually got me, like, out of my chair. I was like, that's Star Trek. That's Starfleet Command. Fly her apart then. I loved it. It was so good, it practically redeemed the entire character for the 50, 60 years he's been doing it. It was absolutely epic. It's epic. And he did a good job with the line. Yeah, he was great. Steve Young says, Burt Ward wrote a book about the sexual promiscuity of the Batman cast called My Life in Tights. Burt Ward and Adam West would go out on the town in the mid-'60s when that show was it was a insane hit. All the kids like me loved it because we took it seriously, and all the adults just thought it was great. And it was color TV, and there were all the purples and all this other stuff. And Adam West and Burt Ward would go out, and they would bang like 6 different women each a night. Just I don't know if they went out on the town in LA in the Batmobile, but they should have. And I really, 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 really liked Burt Ward. I thought he was absolutely perfect. Adam West in the original Batman was a master of camp. But I actually think Burt Ward had a harder job because he had to react to the camp and he had to make that believable. He had to sell that too. Um, yeah, there's some scene on a roof or something where there's like an iron grating up there that they have to get through, and they manage to pry it loose, and Robin's got it. And he's about to throw it down, and Batman says something. Give a care for our pedestrian citizens, there, Boy Wonder. And Robin says, "You're right, Batman." Yeah, the greatest two greatest sentences in history of the world are atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. Absolutely right there. P7 2017. I just love checklists and that kind of stuff. I love the sound of turbines winding up, and when they're sitting in the Batmobile and they're flipping on the switches and he's doing the call, it's like atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. It's like Lapco92 again says, with Super Chat, says, Takai bragged that Sulu was the best helmsman in Starfleet. He failed to notice the irony of an Asian never using a turret suit. Well, he probably was the best helmsman in Starfleet, but I still to this day do not understand how you fly a starship by pushing buttons. How do you get to be the best pilot in Starfleet by pushing buttons? When Data flies the Enterprise D in Picard through the guts of the Death Star, yeah, well, we know. And he's tapping buttons really, really fast. It's weak. At least when the dramatic high point of the Star Trek Next Generation pilot, which I thought was really underwhelming, we're going to do a saucer separation. Will Riker's the best pilot in the fleet. At least they had the decency to have a little joystick come up, you know? Because otherwise it'd be like, saucer separation button pushed. But Axanar has done this. Next Generation did it. Everybody does it. When I see a single frame that has 7 or 8 starships with warp drives dogfighting each other, shooting lasers at each other, and missing with photon torpedoes, well, you know, it's reasonable enough. I mean, the target was almost a mile away. It's just weak. It's just really, really weak. Really, really, really weak. And Axanar couldn't resist the temptation to do it. They got the Ares dogfighting. It's like, it's a ship, dude. If you want to make dogfighting, go do Star Wars. And the Enterprise does not go. Enterprise accelerates to light speed, and when it's in warp drive, it doesn't go down a wormhole. It just goes through space fast. It's excellent. Eric says, when am I going to get those atomic battery sound effects to the bitchin' Camaro? I don't know, but I'm tempted. I'm tempted to put a flame thing in the back, especially. I always wanted to do that when everybody was talking about the Priuses, and it was like, you know, that whole kind of beginning of the global warming thing. I wanted the bitchin' Camaro to be able to inject like fuel and put like a 60-foot tongue of flame behind me that, you know, would have just like made up for all of the emissions of every single Prius in LA County. Would have been great. Last question from Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. What are your thoughts about the advances in video technology through your lifetime, from Super 8 to AI? I was talking with Natasha about this yesterday. I was showing her some of the, just the basic stuff that you just saw, the costume stuff, the deformations and so on. And I said, honey, I can't believe in the entire spectrum of human history, I think if I had been born 2 years earlier or later, it would have been much worse. It's a miracle to be born in the United States anyway, but to have been born when I was born in 1959 and to grow up during that little window of the space age when everything was possible, and Will Robinson was my role model, and And I was telling Natasha, I said, I saw the moon landing with my own eyes. I went from an Apple IIe computer to this stuff that we're doing now. I saw the entire computer revolution. I remember what it was. We were sitting on our couch last night. It was about midnight, and little Bunky was getting tired, and I was just sitting there thinking about David Bowie's song "Ashes to Ashes," which is a freaking amazing song. And I was trying to remember the lines. I know the melody perfectly, but the actual lyrics are a little tough to understand. And I kind of thought, like, imagine that "Ashes to Ashes" is like just blank lines, and every time you can remember a fragment, it would fill that fragment in, and how far could I get? And so I looked it up on Google, got the lyrics on Google, and a lot of lines I didn't even know existed. But I played "Ashes to Ashes," and then that led me to play "Modern Love." And I said to Natasha, and I said, she's very nearly my age. She's much younger than me, but you get the idea. Generation Jones, man. And I'm listening to this music, and I'm thinking, this is the best music ever recorded. When I was in high school, they were playing Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Hotel California, all of the clubs. They're still playing these things in nightclubs. And then I got into the 80s, and I was watching the television when MTV first went on the air. I saw them go on the air. I saw them play "Video Killed the Radio Star." Just went off the air, apparently, just a couple of weeks ago. And they played "Video Killed the Radio Star," but they hadn't been music television for 20 years or 30 or something. I saw MTV. I was there for MTV. I was there for the beginning of the internet. I mean, I saw, when I started working at the Miami Planetarium, the best images we had of the planets were telescopic pictures from Earth. So I lived in that magical time. If I had been born earlier, I never would have seen what Pluto looked like. I never would have seen the clouds of Jupiter or any of it. And if I'd been born later, whenever I would have looked for Jupiter, I would have seen these super high resolution images of Jupiter, not this fuzzy thing with a couple of brown lines. I got to live through the, oh my God, with Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Mars, all of them, all the way out to Pluto. I've seen close-ups of asteroids. I've seen objects land on asteroids. No one else in history has the experience that I've had. You're either born before the internet. I'm talking about the large history. You're either born before the internet or after. You're either born before self-driving cars or after them. You're either born before computers or after them. You're either born before space probes or after them. And this one little magic window where you get to see them happen, and then on top of that, you listen to the music, and it makes me feel like Roy Batty, I've seen ships on fire off the, burning off Orion or whatever. It's like, so yes, I'm fully aware of it, Roadrunner. I cut Super 8 and 16 millimeter movies with my hands with a razor blade, and scraping off each cut with a razor blade and cementing them together and letting it dry and syncing up the sound and running them through a Moviola. And I started with that, and now I sit here and touch buttons, and the world comes to life, and I am attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. Just an incredible line. And Rutger Hauer ad-libbed that Tears in the Rain line. And now I just said to Natasha, I can't believe my luck. And I appreciate this AI video in a way that, and it was the same way with CGI as well before, although this has happened so quickly and is so much, so dramatic. Yes, I can't believe it. Now I was telling Natasha, not only do I get to work with the AI, I get to work with a large language model AI who will analyze every single pixel in a shot and tell me if there's any rough edges around a matte or a composition line or something, or he'll say this figure works a little better, the eyes are a little more deeply set. Great. It's amazing. I want to live forever. And so far, I think the chances of that is excellent. However, I got to see this, and somebody mentioned, investors, single point of failure, and all the rest of that stuff. By the time we are ready for the crowdsourcing the pilot, I will have put into place some sort of, in order to make the stuff we need for the pilot, that stuff I can do on my own, the first raise. But out of that first raise, we're putting together a team. So from that point, there'll be a studio, and there'll be a management team, and there'll be a art team, and designate some person or persons with fire in their heart on this idea. And what I really need to be doing is writing as much as possible. So that's what I'm trying to do. And we'll see. Maybe on Thursday night we can talk about this recent talk about not putting the crew on Artemis 2. That's not what I want to hear, although I would really like to see that program go away. I don't want to see anybody killed, but it's just pathetic. Just give it to SpaceX. Just give it to them. When they're saying, "Oh no," that sounds to me like they don't have confidence in the capsule. And it's been what, 2.5, 3 years since the last one. Cooper says use ChatGPT to help write. ChatGPT cannot write to save its life. What ChatGPT can do, however, it can write essays and all the rest of it, but AI LLMs have. If you're a music lover and you listen to AI music, you can tell it's AI music instantly. Same thing for me with writing, but ChatGPT can do things like help with edits and point out places where it's much better as an edit than that. So who knows? Anyway, that's it. So I think we're done for the night. It's 9 o'clock, not bad. Yeah, it's a 3-hour tour practically, isn't it? It's not bad at all. All right, so anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here as always, and for testing the stuff and the critiques and so on. Especially want to thank the members at BillWhittle.com for making the show possible the way they always do. It's been absolutely great, and it's time to get up and start moving. So I think what I will do is I will run that animation one more time, since I put some effort into it, and then we will be back on Thursday. So until then, take care of yourselves, and we will see you here on Thursday for your very own Stratosphere Lounge. Okay, let me see if I can find where I put this thing, because I put up so many of them. Is it this one? Nope. Where did I put it? Hang on. Nope. Yep. Here we go.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm chafing pretty badly here. Standard sci-fi underwear. Pretty basic stuff, really. Life on the frontier is about a manly, rugged life outdoors. Just because it gets cold doesn't mean you can't look fabulous.
This is what real men wear when they are forced to discipline their kids.
Not gonna lie. A lot of this is starting to feel a little gay.
Nothing gets more gay than this.
Well, I guess I was wrong.
So very, very wrong.
I have never been so wrong about anything in my life.
Only you can save us from more of this.